so let's go ahead and go on to this one. So this one is BBC News and BBC Politics. Wow, a collab between the same channel and itself. That's my favorite kind of collab. That's the type of collab I could do, is a collab between me and myself. But okay, so I guess Keir Starmer says, this video is called Keir Starmer says UK will host talks on Strait of Hormuz. I assure you that they are going to be hosting a lot of talks on the Strait of Hormuz. I also have a feeling there's not going to be a whole lot of action that comes from all of these talks, if I had to guess. But let's go ahead and see if the big beautiful channel, if they can shed some lights on what these talks are going to actually lead to in terms of actions.
This morning, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has become the latest world leader to outline their plan for responding to the energy crisis brought about by the US-Israeli war on Iran. An hour earlier, the Australian Prime Minister gave a rare address to the nation as cuts to fuel tax in the country began to bring down petrol prices. And in Germany, gas stations will now only be able to raise pump prices once a day as costs spiral. Here, the Prime Minister has warned that it's inevitable.
What happened, capitalist countries? What are you doing? Why are you doing all these price controls, dude? Come on. I thought
But reassured the public that his government has put in place the measures to withstand it. Sir Keir Starmer didn't announce any new policies, but pointed to previous measures, including capping energy bills and keeping fuel duty cuts in place until September.
This is not our war. We will not be drawn into the conflict. That is not in our national interest. And the most effective way we can support the cost of living in Britain is to push for de-escalation in the Middle East and a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which is such a vital route for energy. To that end, we're exploring each and every diplomatic avenue that is available to us. The Foreign Secretary and the...
Yeah, I will assure you that whatever happens, there's going to be a diplomatic solution when it comes to the UK. So if America truly does just abandon it, which, to be honest, there's nothing they can do in the long term, right? America is not going to be able to open the Strait of Hormuz indefinitely. They could open it temporarily if they did a full ground occupation or whatever. But as soon as they left, Iran would regain control of it and have complete and total control over the Strait of Hormuz. So really, in the end, it is going to be up to countries to figure out a way to solve this problem. And if America can't open it, which I just told you exactly why they couldn't, then nobody can. So Keir Starmer and his group of baboons that they're going to try and get to go, or that he's like, they're talking tough about going to reopen it by military force or whatever. It's not going to happen. The only way that you are going to start getting oil shipped to your country through the Strait of Hormuz is if you make a deal with Iran. I don't know what that deal will be. I know they've talked about $2 million per ship or whatever, paid in yuan. Like if you maybe pay for the oil in yuan instead of the American dollar, that might be a way that they'll send it to you. Maybe they'll just be like, you have to, if you remove all of the American bases on your soil, then we'll ship to you at a or we'll allow you through at a discount. Like there's all kinds of ways that this could look in the future, but they will all be based on negotiation and diplomacy because Iran has forced that scenario at this point. There's no threatening Iran anymore is kind of what it feels like to me. Iran is coming out of this to be a regional hegemon is kind of the feeling I'm getting, where they can control every aspect of that area of the Middle East. And there's nothing that, apparently there's nothing that America or the rest of the world can do to stop them. So that's kind of how I see this playing out. I'm sure that they're going to talk some big talk, but at the end of the day, like I said, if America can't open it with military force, then nobody can.
Chancellor have met their counterparts in the G7. The Defence Secretary has been in the Middle East speaking to our partners, and the UK has now brought together 35 nations around our statement of intent to push as one for maritime security across the Gulf. And today I can announce that later this week, the Foreign Secretary will host a meeting that brings those nations together for the first time, where we will assess all viable diplomatic and political measures that we can take to restore freedom of navigation, guarantee the safety of trapped ships and seafarers, and resume the movement of vital commodities. Following that meeting, we will also convene our military planners to look.
The audio is completely distinct from the video. This has been happening to a few videos I've watched lately. I don't know. I don't think it's like anything on my end or YouTube's end. I think it's just the video, but I don't know. Maybe I'll try refreshing if I get too annoyed.
Look at how we can marshal our capabilities and make the Strait accessible and safe after the fighting has stopped. Because I do have to level with people on this. This will not be easy.
Yeah, it won't be. It won't be unless you just go along with what Iran asked for. At that point, it will be easy. If you just do whatever they say, then it will be easy. You'll get as much oil as you want if you do whatever Iran says. But otherwise, yeah, it won't be easy.
Well, the Prime Minister also announced a new summit with the European Union, saying the UK's long-term interest requires closer ties with Europe. He also responded to comments from the US President Donald Trump to The Telegraph, saying he was strongly considering pulling the United States out of NATO.
Firstly, NATO is the single most effective military alliance the world has ever seen, and it has kept us safe for many decades, and we are fully committed to NATO. Secondly, that whatever the pressure on me and others, whatever the noise, I'm going to act in the British national interest in all the decisions that I make. And that's why I've been absolutely clear that this is not our war, and we're not going to get...
NATO is not good for the British citizens, not the British working class. I assure you that. I think that if I had to guess, I mean, I don't really know what the average British person thinks about NATO, because there is a lot of like Russian scare propaganda and like within a lot of Europe where they think Russia is just going to keep expanding its borders like indefinitely or something. I think that's a little bit silly. But like, to all of my British brothers and sisters out there, and NBsters, you should know that like your lives will get better once your country, like they will get somewhat better once your country regains sovereignty from the United States and our pedo billionaire elites who, you know, use all of our vassal countries like fleshlights every time they possibly can. You know what I'm saying? Like it will take some time, because obviously your countries have been, you know, captured by the same corporate interests that we essentially developed in a petri dish over here and then just exported abroad so that every country can have their own billionaire, trillionaire, fucking pedo billionaires to rule over the entire working class of their countries, right? Like we kind of exported that to the rest of the world, but the only way that that gets reversed is once these countries start actually getting, you know, more sovereignty, and once America's you know, ability to project power is significantly diminished, which it's on the road to being right now. So that's what I have to say to all of my British brothers and sisters and MBsters out there.
Get dragged into it. But I'm equally clear that when it comes to defence and security and our economic future, we have to have closer ties with Europe. That's why we had the summit last year. This year, as I've just announced, there'll be a further summit. We will make good on the commitments that we put in place last year, but we will also go further in relation to the alignment.
That's all true.
Well, let's speak to our political...
They do need to get more of a block going when it comes to the EU. I agree.
Ian...
They should be following Spain and Italy's lead, if you ask me.
Watson. And Ian, no new policies or measures today.
I mean, I'm trying to do this less, but that's the most British person I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. I mean, look at him, dude. Have you ever seen a more British person? Okay, I'm done.
Unlike other world leaders have announced after what's been going on in the Middle East, will that be something that Keir Starmer is likely to be criticised for?
Yeah, undoubtedly will, actually, by the opposition and indeed the media, of course, asking when can they expect to hear details of any package of help for people. He said not once but twice this won't be easy. Once in relation to the Strait of Hormuz, where obviously the oil is not flowing from at the moment, and secondly, more widely in terms of the economic impact.
It is flowing. It's just not flowing to you. It's flowing to a lot of countries. It's just not you. It's flowing to like Pakistan. Is flowing to China. Anybody who Iran considers an ally, it is flowing to. So maybe that's your route. Maybe you just become allies with Iran. How about that? Solve all your problems.
So what people wanted to know, I think, including some of the people at the press conference, was when we could expect certain measures to be put in place. For example, help with energy bills. What he wanted to emphasise was that as a result of government policy, energy bills were coming down and staying down for the next 3 months. But he, like the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, tended to suggest that when any help did kick in, if the conflict is protracted, that wouldn't happen until the autumn. He said that only 7% of energy use was during the summer. So some people might be worried when the energy price cap is lifted in July that they will see their bills going up and won't have any immediate help. Obviously, we know that help, when it does come, will be targeted, but again, no more detail on how it will be targeted, what level of household income people should have. And with Australia, for example, cutting its fuel duty, Ireland doing much the same. He was asked directly by the BBC what he was going to do about fuel duty here. And again, he said, well, it remains the cut remains in place until September. So again, no guarantee that that would be reversed, even though just about everyone expects that if the conflict is protracted, that is exactly what he'd do. So it may well be that Downing Street has a plan to roll out its measures at certain times. It's also facing, of course, local elections in England, national elections for the Scottish and Welsh parliaments. So, you know, there is a lot going on beyond this conflict, and it may well be that he wants to make announcements at specific times. But we didn't get much more detail today. I think what we did get in terms of direction of travel, though, was interestingly, he chose to emphasise having closer relationships with the EU. We knew there was going to be a summit this year.
Didn't they just get out of the EU though? the Brexit or whatever. How long ago was that? One sec. When was Brexit? Sorry about that. Okay. So Brexit was 2020. Oh God, 5 or 6 years ago. Oh no, my allergies are kicking in. 1 second. Okay, I'm pretty allergic to cats, so and I picked up my cat a decent amount, so I might have to go wash my hands at some point. But anyway, yeah, Brexit was like 6 years ago. Bad timing, dude. Bad timing. You guys really fucked yourself there, didn't you? Because this will, like, America leaving NATO, or like, you know, essentially effectively leaving NATO, even if it's just like, even if they're technically in it, but obviously showing that they are not going to go out and help any of these countries if they get in a war. Like, means that the EU bloc needs to come together in a way that it hasn't in a long time. And that would include, like, you know, military sort of like coordination and distributing resources for military purposes and all that sort of stuff. Like, and so the fact that they're out of it now, I do think might potentially kind of fuck them in the short term. I would suggest that they just join back up with the EU if I had a suggestion to the Brits, but that's just me. I'm kind of done hearing about our British people over there.